Hey guys, Poro here with another Worlds 2025 video, this time for Grand Finals where we get to witness telecom wars in an incredibly high stakes match. On the one side, we have T1, who are looking for their Worlds three-peat after defeating two LPL teams in knockouts, and on the other side, we have the underdogs KT, who managed to topple the tournament favorites in Gen G. Based on what we've seen all year, T1 should be favored to win, but crazier upsets have happened at Worlds before, so you never know. Game 1 was a T1 win. I don't know what to say, this team literally just has plot armor. Impossible for them to lose in a Grand Finals. KT did just about everything correctly here. I really like their draft read. They went for basically exactly what I was expecting from my prediction video. Left Orianna and a 0-up to force T1 to ban both, Wukong Rumble and a strong mage to trade picks with Faker, gave Doran his choice of Ambessa or Galio, and got T1 into a losing bot lane 2v2. Draft was solid. Then, in game, everything was going KT's way as well. They made numerous great plays early with Peter and Cuz specifically, as they ran around the map punishing bad T1 decisions. Owner decided to fight Scuttle against a Braum and died, Cuz had a nice timer to kill Guma who was trying to teleport to a frozen wave to push it out, and Cuz and Peter found another good collapse top to get a double kill on Doran and Keria who were going too hard on a fight. KT walked into Soul Point Drake with a huge kill lead, a substantial gold lead, and every objective including feats. T1 casted their wizard bullshit though, and they literally just hard outplayed KT on the objective setup. Keria bullied his way into the position to slowly push KT back, then he perfectly reacted with his W to punish KT's attempt to snap engage, and then he ulted out Rumble as Owner went in and found a huge ult of his own to disorient KT and allow the carries to easily win the fight. I don't know how they do it, but T1 is just really good at winning tense teamfights like this. It happened again at Otacon as KT started it feeling like the game was slipping away. T1 slowly forced KT off of it, and then started it themselves to force KT to walk back in. Doran had a nice flash ult to punish the no flash Ashe to win the first half of the fight, but then he inted the advantage back by getting caught by BDD. In the second half of the fight, KT tried their best to get in and take the Otacon, but this time it was a nice shove by Faker's Talia to get 2 more kills and essentially seal the deal for this first game. Not much to say about this one. KT had the game fully in their control before it even started, and the first 18 minutes went exactly how they would have wanted it to go, but at the end of the day, T1 were just the better team fighting team, and they won every fight when it mattered most. I do like what I saw from KT in the early game though, and I'm hoping they have enough life in them to make a series of it instead of another T1 3-0 like we got in 2023. Game 2 featured KT having another solid early game, and while it was shaky in a few moments, KT were able to get this one across the finish line. Cuz played this game very well right from the get-go. He responded to a mid-gang from Owner by going for a dive bot, and after that he simply read Owner like a book. Jarvan went for another mid-gank at 9 minutes to try and blow Mel's flash a second time, but Owner was ready for the counter gank, and with BDD dodging everything and landing everything, the two of them were able to pick up both kills and extend the lead. Owner went for a failed gank on BDD yet again topside, and this time Peter and Cuz were there together to get 2 kills again, and the game feels like it should be pretty over at this point. However, while KT's macro is pretty solid, their individual players felt a bit scared or shaky at times. They sacked first Drake because Mel had no flash, and they sacked second Drake because Ezreal was a bit late after greeting for a plate. With T1 getting more objectives and having a Sivir, it felt like the game pace was slow enough that T1 would get their chance eventually. In fact, it looked like maybe T1 would fulfill that promise at third Drake, as a very close fight actually ended up in their favor. Peter had a pretty solid ult, but Perfect got hit with a polymorph before getting his ult off, and with his death, Guma was able to take over and get a 5-for-3 win. Cuz also got picked out here, but to be honest I don't fault him too much since he got hit by a completely blind Sylas E basically. T1 wasn't in a good spot to take the Drake though, so the two teams squared up for the soul point yet again. In this one, Faker saw an angle to go onto Docdom with Nico ult and pick up an initial kill, but through a combination of Cuz playing well around his Sundered Sky and BDD disengaging a Sion and Jarvan well, KT actually pulled the fight back and managed to take the dragon as well as the Otacon. Right when Baron spawned though, Docdom made a huge mistake. I'm not 100% sure what he's thinking here since his teammates are in topside jungle, but he decided to hover the bottom side of mid lane right next to a bush with no vision and he got dry Sion queued. KT would play the situation out beautifully as a team to recover though. With Docdom dead for 40 seconds and soul point spawning, T1 wanted to take the Drake. KT knowing this, but also knowing Ezreal had teleport, decided to start the Baron to force T1 to contest, stalling Ezreal's death timer out. When he respawned, they simply pulled off and overtook the Drake. I like this call a lot. I feel like there are a lot of teams who would try to show up to the Drake 4v5 and play the situation slowly to stall for Ezreal TP instead, which is definitely a riskier play. At 5th Drake, KT would out macro T1 again. When Cuz went onto the Drake to start it, T1 made the call to full send it on Baron. However, nobody on KT panicked. Cuz kept doing the Drake, and Perfect stayed bot side to deny Faker a TP window, and T1 were pushed off of the Baron with just 3 people. Then at 33 minutes, T1 went for a blue buff invade, and I just want you all to watch Perfect here because I love how he plays this fight. KT have a pick on Faker and they go for it, but in the meantime, Perfect gets onto Guma, which forces all of T1 to back up and peel for the Sivir, and the Rek'Sai manages to ult and tunnel out to survive while Sylas goes down. Super great way to buy space and save time for your team. Right after this, Peter has a nice play of his own. He sees a potential ult angle, but instead of burning flash, he holds it and gets Lulu to flash as he solo ults the Scion, followed by a nasty 3-man root which allows KT to kill one more and take the Baron. Doran tried to go for some kind of mid play afterwards, but it was pretty terrible, and now KT have finally broken open the game in a comfortable way. T1 showed up to fight the Soul, but with no real tools to stop the engage onslaught onto the Sivir, they lose that fight pretty decisively and KT managed to grab their 4th Drake in a row. With the game all but over, KT would actually make it look scary one more time in the enemy base. Peter went in for the ult, but a decent disengage followed by Faker's own Nico ult made the fight look sketchy. It seemed like maybe Sivir would actually be able to pump enough damage to turn it around, but Guma played the fight a bit too fast. With his flash almost up and a huge health lead, he got too close to Rek'Sai and gave her a flash knockup window, and Cuz had good presence of mind to know he needed to trade his life to one-shot Sivir. With the carry down, KT were able to win with Cuz's Guardian Angel, and the throw was averted to even up the series. Overall, while KT won, it was not the most confidence-inspiring game ever. It felt like they were hesitant to start some objectives that they maybe should have contested, and their teamfights still felt not entirely put together. However, the macro game for the team as a whole was pretty good, and that paired with individually great play from a lot of members was enough. I'm not quite sure where the momentum is right now, as while it seems like T1 have the edge in mechanically playing teamfights better, KT did win both early games. Okay, last game was a bit shaky for KT, but in game 3 they were definitely mentally there and controlled that game pretty well. KT knew that even if they fell behind a bit, both Mundo and Cassante would scale very well into this game. The first few plays were roughly even, T1 traded a kill for the first Drake, and they traded another kill for 3 grubs. The game didn't have its first huge moment until second Drake, where KT decided they wanted to make their big stand. At first, the fight looked to be going T1's way. Guma was heavily outtrading Docdom on the bottom side of the fight, and then BDD flashed in for the big play but missed a couple of key spells that led to him failing to kill Viego. T1 were up 5 members to 3, but the health bars were low and KT decided to keep on going. Cuz did what he does best and won a smite fight to get the dragon, and then Perfect found a huge 3-man W stun to give Docdom the angle to pump damage. With T1 even lower, Cuz chased them down with cleavers and stalled until BDD respawned and teleported, and somehow KT walked away with the dragon and a 4-for-3 teamfight win. At Herald, T1 would make a pretty good play. They had a deep ward for Doran to TP flank on, and Keria sent it super hard to pick up 2 kills for T1 and the Herald. However, this would be the last time T1 would find a significant edge in the game. KT grabbed 3rd Drake easily and even got a nice free kill on Keria as well. Then they found a bot dive onto Doran and killed him as well with a turret. All KT needed was one more teamfight win to really fully control the game, and their moment would come on the 4th Drake fight. This fight could have gone either way, but a few things happened. First, Peter found an engage onto Faker, and Mundo got onto his face to effectively remove him from the fight. However, at the same time, Renekton flash engaged onto the Corki, and Corki definitely should have died here, but Keria actually missed the knockup off of his charm, and the KT carries were able to turn back onto the Renekton and kill him. Then, on the bottom side of the fight, Perfect was outplaying Owner 1v1 and managed to barely pick up a kill on the Viego, and a good scatter from BDD would connect onto Guma, making him panic flash in the pit where he too would fall. When the dust settled, T1 got the Drake, but KT won the fight hard with a 3-for-0. KT would also grab the Otacon, and while the game stalled out for a while, they never looked back after this. T1 blew 4 ultimates trying to kill Cuz but didn't have damage, then KT decided to start Baron with their ultimate advantage and had a really good turn off of it to pick up more kills after Doran was too aggressive and got his E cancelled with the Syndra stun. Then T1 decided to risk the entire game by double flashing into the pit for the smite steal, where BDD would hit a great flash 2-man stun to get 2 more kills and the Baron, and then while the game would continue for another 10 minutes, it was over. Now the momentum is definitely in KT's favor. Unlike the second game, which was a bit more back and forth, this one felt like KT all were on the same page with their game plan and were able to execute from start to finish. Cuz and Perfect were both great this time and were definitely the primary reasons for the win, despite the carries making a couple of individual mistakes here and there. Unfortunately for KT, T1 are currently 6-1 in best of 5s when down 1-2, or something ridiculous like that, so this means T1 are all but guaranteed to win the series. Okay T1, I was kidding, you don't actually have to come back from another 1-2 deficit if you don't want to. Game 4 started out looking pretty good for KT. Their comp should lose early, but with TK and Mordekaiser to disrupt the T1 comp, the mid-game fights should look pretty good for them. In fact, KT got out to a great lead as BDD and Cuz double flashed on the Anivia mid to get her flash and her egg early, and they used the advantage to start first Drake. Owner attempted a hero play by flashing into Smite, and he did end up with the steal, but overall the game was still stable. At second Drake, KT tried to get in, but the zoning tools from Anivia and Renata were too much, and T1 were able to grab the Drake easily. KT decided to commit for the fight anyway though, and after maneuvering their way in slowly, BDD found a really nice flash ult onto 3, and KT were able to pick up multiple kills on the chase down. Peter went too far and gave a kill back, but again, it's not bad for KT. At the third Drake, literally the exact same scenario happened again. This time it was KT with the initial setup, but Owner waltzed in and stole the dragon in a pure 50-50, and KT took the fight by getting 2 kills off of it. At this point, it's getting kind of ridiculous. T1 can't actually win any fights, but Owner keeps on getting smites over Cuz to keep T1's chances alive. If this continues, I might have to revoke Cuz's smite goat privileges. With the knowledge that they win fights if they have setup, KT decided to start the Otacon. However, Faker had really good position in lane to force KT back, and Perfect went on a solo mission to try to ult somebody where he ended up ulting Callista and getting 1v1'd in the Death Realm. With Anivia still mega zoning, T1 were able to take control of the Otacon and grab it for themselves, and now the alarm bells are truly ringing. At the soul fight, KT would manage to bully their way in once again for another chance at a smite 50-50, but Perfect would get bamboozled by Gragas in the Death Realm this time, and Dom, expecting Peter to actually ult him for once, walked up aggressively and got hit with a Renata ultimate and got super chunked out. This is actually now multiple fights where Peter was not near Caitlyn to peel for her, which is incredibly concerning considering that's TK's literal only job this game. Cuz would attempt to steal, but this time it was Gragas who picked it up, and now T1 straight up just got soul from 4 straight contested Drakes. With the power of the soul, T1 would win one more teamfight mid and then end the game. I feel like KT really needed to win this one. Their comp looked solid, they had the early lead, and they had the series momentum, but they could not get a single contested objective, and T1 were able to take the win and go into game 5 with some momentum of their own. Peter and Perfect had pretty terrible games with very bad ultimates, or lack thereof. I thought Cuz was playing fine, but docked him for missing many 50-50 opportunities, and on T1's side, both Faker and Guma were doing a great job positioning in fights. Faker with the strong zoning tools and setups, and Guma with the cleanups. I would love a KT win in game 5, but my gut is telling me T1's got it. I guess for game 5 of Grand Finals, I should probably do another spoiler warning type deal where I won't tell you who wins until the end. T1 went for the classic Camille Galio dive comp, and KT had more of a scaling comp with Smolder. Notably though, I do think Smolder's scaling is called into question a bit this game, as I feel like if he gets ulted by Camille in a fight, there shouldn't be much he can do to survive. I like T1's comp better here, it feels like the type of game Camille and Pantheon should be able to run over regardless of how strong KT's carries get. Right away, KT would find themselves in a massive hole. Owner went for a 3 camp gank onto Yorick, and Camille started the game with a 300 gold lead. Then, 3 minutes later, Owner went for another top gank onto Yorick, and Perfect had a pretty bad flash and died again, putting Yorick in an even deeper hole. After that, with Yorick flash down, Perfect would step up too far again and overextend into a Camille Galio combo to die a 3rd time, and now the game feels super doomed. Perfect would end up dying again to Camille, this time due to a Pantheon ult at 15 minutes, and before you know it, Doran is up 2k individual gold. Now, fortunately for KT, it is still Doran with a big lead, and he would try his best to hand it back over. He went for a dive onto the Ziggs, but Faker was being pressured by Yorick in bot side and wasn't able to ult right away, meaning that Camille actually just ulted into the enemy team alone and gave over a shutdown to Smolder, and in the ensuing teamfight, Owner would also give Smolder a second shutdown to give KT some life in this game 5. Doran was not done quite yet though, and in a greed for the mid tower, the Camille got herself trapped into a Yorick cage under the turret and was promptly killed, giving mid tier 1 to KT in the process. Next though was the Otacon situation, which T1 used their setup to get easily. KT decided to go for the chase, and Guma used a misfortune ult purely to get KT to walk away, but this time it was Peter who decided now it was his time, as he stood in the entire misfortune ult and died. What happened next was a series of disastrous events for KT. Cuz was posturing forwards, probably assuming Peter saw some kind of engage angle before he got one shot, and so Keria turned onto the Sejuani. A combination of Keria flash stun onto Smolder, and Owner's ult behind the Ziggs trapped all of KT in between members of T1, and Guma was free to hit as T1 picked up the most unnecessary ace ever. Now the game should definitely be over, but Doran had a pretty terrible slip up on a Baron turn. Owner found a nice ult to take down Dom at the start of the fight, but Doran decided the move was to dive Smolder under tower, and he and Galio duo ulted in the middle of 4 members of KT where they would deliver 2 more shutdowns while not even finishing off BDD. At the 5th Drake, Doran honestly tried his best to lose this fight too, as he hookshot nobody in front of KT's face and ended up dying. However, Dom with flash up got hit with a Leona ultimate, and the bullet time from Misfortune absolutely ravaged both members of the KT bot lane, allowing T1 to win the fight, the Baron, and Soul Point. Now they have a 10k gold lead to work with, but Doran again has a pretty bad death, as I don't even know what he was going for here. At least with the Drake fight, I know he was trying to find an ult onto Smolder, but in this one, I can't fathom where his mind is at because neither carry was anywhere nearby and the mid tier 3 was still up. No matter how you look at it, there's zero chance Pantheon and Galio can follow up on this. I want to point out that even with an 11k gold lead for T1, Doran managed to go from 3-0 and up 2k individual gold out of lane phase to 3-5 and giving KT their only lifeline with the Fed Smolder. I honestly don't think he played any better than perfect in this one when the dust settled. KT went for one more fight on a Baron posture, but at this point Miss Fortune is way too strong and she was able to dish out massive damage onto the Smolder and win the fight pretty easily for T1. With this, T1 takes game 5 and they win their 3rd Worlds in a row. At the end of the day, it seems like fate will not be denied, and T1 managed to hold on after the early series deficit. Owner and Guma started out on the more underwhelming side, but scaled well into the series and were playing strong games by the end. Keria was pretty good in all 5 games, Faker was hit or miss but was a huge reason why they were able to win game 4, and I genuinely think Doran played 5 bad games and still managed to take home the title. A lot of people were talking about his end of game scoreline and his 2 flash ults at the Doc Dom in game 1, but a lot of his ults were complete whiffs that made the game way harder for T1 to play, and he gave KT multiple angles to win the game, such as his bad lane phase, and the fact that he inted back the advantage T1 got at Otacon to give them a chance to contest the back half of that teamfight. As for KT, I think the first 3 games, everyone except for Doc Dom was pretty solid, with Cuz especially looking great. However, with Doc Dom being outclassed by Guma basically all series, and the game 4 and 5 collapse, KT did not have what it took to put together that 3rd win. Overall, when all is said and done, I think I'll remember the tournament as a whole as one where Faker stepped up huge and put the team on his back all the way up until Grand Finals where the rest of his team finally showed up when it mattered most, and I'll remember KT as everyone on the roster playing towards their theoretical ceiling to put together a wild miracle run. With Worlds done, I only have one more Worlds 2025 specific video left to go, but I also want to talk about some of my future plans. First, I want to do my tournament reflection video. I've been keeping track of all of my predictions, as well as the scores I've given every player, and we'll take a look at how I thought the teams and players did over the course of the tournament. I'll give some thoughts on the format, and the format for the entire year as well. I'll also spend some time revisiting how I thought my videos have done, specifically talking about what I think went right and wrong with my format, structure, and graphics. I definitely have some changes I'll be looking to make for future international tournaments, but I'll want to see what you all think about what I have to say. I also have a bunch of esports related video ideas I came up with over the course of the tournament. One that I am absolutely doing no matter what is a video about 10 out of 10 performances. A lot of people have noticed that I didn't really give out super high ratings at this tournament, but it's definitely true that I felt this Worlds was at a lower level of gameplay across the board, but this has also given people the impression that it's impossible to get a perfect score in my system. This is definitely not true, and I pulled out one example from all 5 roles of someone playing a game I would score a 10. I'm super excited to show you all what I think the pinnacle of League of Legends looks like, and I think it'll make for an entertaining video. I'm also tossing around the idea of making videos to show you all who I have in my GOAT leaderboards, but I have to decide if it's worth the mental anguish or not. As for other plans in the future, I'll touch more on those in my tournament reflection video, which you can expect in a few days probably. I might take a day off at some point as it's been a huge grind to cover all of Worlds like this, and I want to thank all of you for joining me for it. That's all I have for you for this one. I have a Patreon for people who want to support me more while I'm making these videos. There are 3 tiers, each with varying amounts of benefits, including different types of behind the scenes content, and even a custom Poro drawing that I'll display in video outros. If that interests you, check out the Patreon link in the description. I'll see you all for the next one. Bye!